don't know if this doctor just pushes for C-sections or what. Hey guys, so obviously you could tell I was really upset, and I did record saying what happened, but I was crying the whole time, and I honestly couldn't talk about it without crying for a few days. And even yesterday I was crying about it, but today I think I finally have more peace of mind and I'm able to talk about it without crying. And so I would rather just explain it to you more calmly. And I'm not showing you guys this or telling you guys this to make you think I'm dramatic or to like scare you thinking like, you know, this could happen to you in your pregnancy or anything. It's just for the people who want an update on my pregnancy. And you know, if you're pregnant, hopefully you can learn something from this, because I've definitely learned a few things from these past few experiences. So first, I'm gonna start off with talking about the most recent doctor drama that was the most upsetting to me. For those who don't know, I have been planning on a natural birth. And when I say natural, I mean I wanted it as natural as possible, but in the hospital, meaning I didn't want an epidural, and of course I wanted to birth vaginally. And you have your own opinion, that's totally fine, and I'm not saying I would never get an epidural. Who knows? Birth plans never go according to plan. I already know that. I could end up getting an epidural, but my goal was to do it all natural. My sister-in-laws have done it. My mom did it, and she has 9 kids, and she did it with all of them except for me, because I'm the first and she was really young. My mother-in-law has done it. I know a lot of people who have done it, and I have my own reasons that I don't really need to get into, but that's just an important thing to know for the story. So first of all, I chose the same exact doctor that my mom's had for the past like 20 years because he's been excellent. He's been able to help resolve any complications, and like I said, she's been able to give birth all naturally. And so I was like, okay, good. He doesn't push for C-sections, and all my siblings are healthy. And so I just went with him because like him helping my mom birth all my siblings. And everything has been super good so far, except last week I went in for a normal checkup. And at this point, they just hear the baby's heart rate and take my blood pressure and weigh me just to make sure everything is still okay. And so it was just kind of like a normal routine, except this time I had a different doctor who I've never seen before. Usually I always see my own doctor. And so I was kind of like, why do I have this other guy? But I was like, whatever, it's like we're not doing anything big, it's just typical stuff. And then he was also like, oh yeah, well, we also have to take your blood, get a culture, do all this stuff. And I was like, okay, like what are we doing that for? And he's like, oh, everyone just does it. It's just to check like your bacteria levels. Everybody has bacteria, but we just want to make sure they're normal or something like that. I honestly don't know what they're checking for. That's just what he said. And I'm like, okay, that's totally fine. But then he kind of said something like, well, yeah, you better hope it comes back normal, or else like you're probably gonna need a C-section. And the first time he said that, I was just like, okay, like I'm pretty healthy and everything has been normal. So I just blew it off completely. I was like, I'm not gonna need a C-section, pretty sure, because pretty sure everything's gonna be normal. But I was like, whatever. And so I just blew it off, and then I told him, oh yeah, last week I went in this is what I'm telling him. I was like, last week I went and got an ultrasound done by some other doctors, because they refer me out to get ultrasounds, and they said the baby just flipped, and so now she's breech. The whole time she's been head down, and she just flipped the where her head is up, which is not how you're supposed to birth the baby. Their head's supposed to be down, so they go out head first. Oh yeah, and so just a side note, when I first found out the baby was breech, I wasn't worried at all. So I got the ultrasound done somewhere else because they refer me out to another place to get ultrasounds done because it's more like high tech over there. And they were like, oh yeah, like your baby's breech. And because she flips, I mean, I guess it's not like 100%, but I'm pretty sure because she did flip up, that the cord got wrapped around her neck. And I honestly wasn't worried at all. I was like, I'm only 34 weeks. I still have plenty of time for her to flip back down. And even if she flips back down and the cord is still around her neck, my mom said that like half of the kids had the cord around the neck, and our doctor's like excellent expert at getting the cords off during labor. Like she said, my brother who was breech, when he flipped during labor, he actually had a double or triple knot around his neck from the cord, and the doctor just took it right off. And so I felt really confident knowing like I have a really good doctor and everything's gonna be okay, and I wasn't stressed out at all. And then, but the only problem with the cord being around the neck right now is because they didn't want the doctor doing I think it's an ECV or ECG or something, external cephalic, something like that. What happens when your baby's breech is the doctor could do something that where he just like pushes on your stomach really hard to try to manually flip the baby from the outside of your stomach. But because my baby's cord is around the neck, that's not an option. And so basically all we have to do is wait. So yeah, that is also another factor. And so he's like, okay, well, let's check. And so they did a little mini ultrasound just to see where her head was. He said, you can plan on it 99.9%. And I was like, plan on what? And he was like, a C-section. And I was shocked. I was like, what? Did you already test my blood and something came back weird? Like, why would I plan on a C-section? And he was like, because the baby's head down. I was like, I'm only 35 weeks. I mean, I know I'm at the end of my pregnancy, but I still have at least 5 weeks until my due date. Don't you think she could flip again? He's like, no, probably not. He's like, so you should plan on it. And I'm like, no, I'm not gonna plan on it because that's literally the last thing I want. I told him, I was like, obviously I'll do whatever I have to when the time comes. If I have to get a C-section, then I'll get a C-section, but I don't want to plan on that because I wanted to do a natural birth. He's like, well, she's probably not going to flip. And I'm like, well, I heard there's some at-home things I can do, so I'm going to try those, and it's pointless for us to talk about it right now because we don't know if she's going to flip. So I guess we'll just both wait and see. And so he was just very insistent and kind of like bullying me. Like, he obviously saw I was making me upset, and he was still insisting on like telling me I'm going to get a C-section. And so that originally is what upset me. After I left, I called Eric's mom, I called my mom, I told my grandma what happened, and I was crying because I was like, this guy's telling me I'm getting a C-section, and I don't know why he's saying that. Like, the baby still has plenty of time. I know people who, you know, my sister-in-law's baby didn't flip till after her due date, and my mom had a case where one of my brothers was breech even while she went into labor, and then he flipped while in labor. And I know some people who babies don't flip until like a few days or a week before the due date. So for him to tell me that she probably won't flip, I just didn't understand. And so everybody was like, well, basically like, screw him. He doesn't know you, he's not your doctor, so it doesn't matter what he says. And they're like, just make sure you see your own doctor next time. And I was like, yeah, you're right. So basically I called in the office and I put them on speaker, so my grandma even heard it. She's a witness. And I was just like, hey, I just want to double check that I'm gonna be seeing my own doctor next week. And they were like, no, you're scheduled to see the other doctor, the same one who I was just telling you about. And I was like, well, I don't want to see him, so can you please reschedule me so I can have my own doctor? And they were like, okay, well, what's the reason you don't want to see this other doctor? And I said, because he's insisting I get a C-section, and I don't want to be seen by somebody who has that mentality, because that's not what I want. And they said, okay, hold on, let us talk to your doctor really quick. So they put me on hold for like a minute, and then they came back and they said, so we just talked to your doctor and he said the same thing. He actually scheduled you for April 1st. And my due date's April 8th, just so you guys know. And I was like, what? What do you mean he scheduled me? I didn't consent. I didn't sign anything, and I don't agree. I'm not gonna like just go in early for a C-section. And they literally told me, we don't need your consent. It's up to your doctor. He decides. And I was like, so what if I refuse? And they said, well, then you're going to have to switch providers. And I said, okay, well, I need to see my doctor in person next week because I need to hear this from him himself or else I am going to switch doctors. And so after that phone call, I just lost it, because originally the other doctor upset me, and I was like, you know what? I'm sure my doctor will be on my side. Like, I never heard him say anything like this. He's usually very chill. My mom's had him forever. And then when they told me that, and that I was already scheduled and no one's even talked to me about it. Nobody's even talked to me about any options. Like, but they put me on this schedule and it doesn't matter if I consent. I was terrified and upset and mad, and I was like, now I'm gonna have to find a new doctor in my last month of pregnancy. And so every single time I told somebody what was going on, I literally just broke down crying, and everybody was like, it's gonna be okay. Like, nobody knows what's gonna happen, if she's gonna flip or not. And if you have to find a new doctor, we'll find a new doctor. And so over the past few days, I did call another doctor's office and I sent them my medical records just in case. Anyway, so I went into my doctor's office today. I mean, it's the same office, but I went into the office again today, and then they gave me the other doctor again. And then when he walked in, I said, I'm sorry, but I requested to see my doctor. And he was like, okay, that's fine. I'll just do the baby's heart rate, make sure everything's normal. And then you can see him after with any questions. And I was like, okay. And so he got the heart rate, and my grandma was there with me this time. I was not going to go in alone because I was not going to get bullied around, and I wanted a witness. And so he took the heart rate and everything was fine. And then I went to go see my doctor, and I told him I want to talk about a C-section. And then he just calmly explained before I told him, like, I didn't even tell him the story. But he's just like, yeah, since your baby's breech, if she's still breech when it's time to, give birth, then unfortunately we're going to have to do a C-section. And I said, I understand that, but I don't want to be scheduled for a week early. I want to wait as long as possible. I want to give her the most amount of time to flip that I can. He's like, okay. And I've heard from others, and I told him, I don't know if it depends doctor to doctor, but I heard that, I can even wait past my due date. What's the longest we can wait? And he said 2 weeks. And I said, okay, good, because that's what I've heard. I said, then I want to schedule the C-section for 2 weeks after my due date. And he's like, okay, no problem. Like, literally so calm, no problems at all. And I was like, okay, that's good. That's all I wanted to talk about. And so then when I was leaving, I always talked to the office ladies to schedule my next appointment. And then one of the office ladies was like, are you Leticia? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, who told you you were scheduled for April 1st? And I was like, I don't know. They didn't tell me their name. It was just when I called in, because after I was like crying to my mom on the phone and stuff, my mom called in and then she talked to them, and one of the ladies there at the office told her like, oh, well, maybe she'll have to get scheduled or something if she's, still breech when it's time. And so my mom told me that. And so this was the lady who talked to my mom, because they know my mom because she's been going there forever. And they're like, yeah, we talked to your mom, so maybe you got confused with what we told your mom. And I was like, no. Someone told me myself. It didn't matter if I consented. They already scheduled me. And my mom called hours after. Okay, so I didn't confuse anything my mom said with you guys. Someone told me that on the phone, and my grandma heard it. And so they're like, okay, well, that's weird. She's like, because I'm the one who schedules the surgeries. And I was like, well, I don't know who told me that, but someone did. And then the other lady at the office was like, well, maybe you called the hospital. And the hospital, I'm like, no, I called the doctor's office. I called here, you guys. I talked to one of you guys so I can make sure I see my own doctor. And someone told me that. And I was like, but it doesn't matter. Everything's resolved now. So I feel a lot better. I don't feel pressured. Now it's just up to the baby and up to God. I'm going to try doing a few things. I have already been trying a few things at home. I'm just glad I'm not being forced into something, because that just didn't sound right to me at all. Like, I can't even imagine that someone would even dare say that to a pregnant lady. Like, it doesn't matter if you consent. What are you talking about? It's my body. Don't I get to at least wait until my due date? Like, I don't have to go in before my due date if there's no immediate risks or emergencies. So that was the first story, the most recent. And something else happened a while back. that Eric and I honestly didn't want to talk about with anybody because it was really stressful and scary for us. I recorded it when I was talking about my second trimester recap, which I'll be posting within the next few days. I'm almost done editing that. Here, I'll just explain it there. So at mine and Eric's anatomy scan, there's the ultrasound technician and they do everything. And I don't know if this is how all hospitals are, but at least for ours, the ultrasound technician will like figure something out, but they're not the ones who like disclose the information to you. If something's potentially wrong, they'll like tell the doctor and then the doctor will tell you. And so when Eric and I went in, the ultrasound tech was like, there's like a white spot on your baby's heart, just so you know, like this is the EIF that the doctor's gonna be talking to you about. And we're like, okay, I don't know what that means, but I guess we'll find out. And so then we had to sit down with the doctor. Basically, the doctor sat us down and she was telling us that an EIF is I should look this up, I don't remember. Shows up as a white spot on the baby's heart, and it's just like a little hard spot of calcium, like extra calcium that it's not like, I mean, it's not normal. It's not normally there. And what it could mean is that our baby has Down syndrome. And they have things called soft markers and then like hard markers, because if you have like so many symptoms of a baby that has Down syndrome, like a few soft markers, then the chances are you probably have it. Or there's some things where like most times when they have this certain symptom, then they will have Down syndrome. So this was a soft marker, and it was the only one that they found. Everything else was completely normal looking. And they asked if we did the like pre-screen testing in the beginning, and we were like, no, we didn't. But she explained to us that at this point I was already like, I think I was like 28 or 29 weeks or something like that. So she explained that I could do a blood test, and this blood test isn't like the one in the beginning. This one is like 99.9% accurate. So basically would tell us like if our baby had Down syndrome or not. And at this point we were like, okay, well, our baby has a soft marker, and it's not like there's no point in taking the test now because we already decided we're gonna keep it. But now like this test is actually accurate, and so maybe it would just be nice to know so I don't have to always worry, you know, now that we have like a sign or something that like something could be different. So at this point it was kind of more to like prepare ourselves, and so it was really like kind of scary because you don't ever know what to expect. So they sent us to genetic counseling, or they asked us if we wanted to. We didn't have to still, but we decided like we would do it just so we can know. And we did go to the genetic counseling. They basically just explained, we're gonna take your blood, we could test for this, and they said they could test for a billion other things, but I was like, no, this was the only thing that came up, so this is the only thing I want to test for. So we did the testing, and then it came back like a week later, and then it said actually everything was normal. What's the good news, baby?
The results came back negative.
Yep. So we don't have to worry anymore. That was a huge relief, because not that I think we couldn't handle a baby with Down syndrome or something, like we would still love her like crazy and stuff, but it's just obviously going to come with different challenges and stuff, and so you just have to prepare in a different way. And so that's what I would suggest now that I found that out, is I would skip the testing in the beginning, because anything can come up as like a positive, like, oh, something could be wrong with your baby, but it's like so inaccurate, and I feel like it kind of stresses people out and misleads them and stuff like that. Like, I would just wait and keep growing the baby, and then if something comes up on your anatomy scan, then you can get a test that's like 99.9% accurate, and then you can really know for sure. Anyways, thank you so much for listening. You guys have been really amazing with all the support when I asked for you guys to pray for me and the baby without asking what was happening, because I was literally crying for hours when this whole doctor drama stuff happened, and it's not good to be so stressed, and you know, for me or for the baby. And so I really appreciate all the love that you guys sent and that you respected my privacy. Thank you for giving me time to calm down and figure out what I needed to do so I could explain it to you guys more calmly. Hopefully you guys don't have to worry about me. I feel a lot more calm now, and I know that God is watching over me this whole time. Whether I do end up getting a C-section or not, God has always been there for me, and I know everything is in His plan, and I do trust Him. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate all your support, and I can't wait to share all the more fun and exciting things about pregnancy. So stay tuned for all those good videos.